The false promise, the discovery that changed everything. Captain Elena Vasquez pressed her face against the observation deck window of the exploration vessel Terra Nova. After 18 months of deep space exploration, her crew had found something that would change human history forever. Floating in the darkness near Jupiter's orbit was an object that clearly did not belong to any human civilization. The alien beacon was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. It pulsed with soft blue energy, sending patterns of light across its crystalline surface. The structure was perfectly geometric, made from materials that Earth's best scientists couldn't identify. Dr. Alexei Petrov, the ship's chief xenobiologist, stood beside Alina, his weathered face filled with wonder and concern. "Captain, the energy readings are unlike anything we've ever encountered," Alexei said, his Russian accent thick with excitement. "This technology is thousands of years ahead of ours, maybe tens of thousands." Alina nodded slowly. She had spent 15 years in space, exploring the outer reaches of the solar system, always hoping to find evidence of alien life. Now that the moment had arrived, she felt both thrilled and frightened. Any signs of active scanning or defensive systems? Lieutenant Marcus Chen, the ship's young communications officer, looked up from his console. Marcus was brilliant with technology, able to understand complex systems faster than anyone Alina had ever met. "No hostile activity detected, Captain, but it's definitely transmitting something. The signal is too complex for our computers to decode." Alina made the decision that would change everything. "Move us closer, but keep our weapons powered and ready for emergency jump to hyperspace." As Terra Nova approached the beacon, something unexpected happened. The alien structure suddenly flared with brilliant light, and a message appeared on every screen throughout the ship. The words were in perfect English. "Greetings, people of Earth. We have been waiting for you." First contact protocol, the bridge, fell completely silent. Alina felt her heart racing as she stared at the message. After decades of wondering if humanity was alone in the universe, they had their answer, and the aliens already knew about Earth. "Captain, we're receiving a much more complex transmission now," Marcus reported. It's a star map, showing the location of their home system." Dr. Petrov studied the data with growing amazement. "This is incredible, Alina. They're not just making contact, they're inviting us to visit them." 3 days later, Alina found herself staring at something even more impossible. A massive alien fleet had arrived in Earth's solar system. The ships were elegant and graceful, looking more like works of art than military vessels. Each one was easily 10 times larger than Earth's biggest spaceship. The lead vessel sent a single shuttle to Terra Nova. Elena, Dr. Petrov, and Marcus waited in the docking bay as the alien craft settled onto their deck with silent precision. When the door opened, Alina got her first look at humanity's visitors. Ambassador Kethva of the Nexus Collective was tall and slender, with pale golden skin that seemed to glow with inner light. His large eyes were kind and intelligent, and when he spoke, his voice was warm and welcoming. "Captain Vasquez, Dr. Petrov, Lieutenant Chen, I am honored to meet representatives of such a promising young species," Kethva said, his English perfect despite never having visited Earth. "Your people have shown remarkable progress. The Collective has been watching your development with great interest." Alina tried to hide her surprise. "You've been watching us? For how long?" "Several of your centuries," Kethva replied with what seemed like a genuine smile. "We monitor all developing civilizations in this region of the galaxy. Most never achieve interstellar travel, but humans are different. You have something special that the collective values greatly. The galactic community, over the following weeks, Earth received more visitors from the Nexus Collective. They came in ships that made human technology look primitive by comparison. Representatives from dozens of different species arrived to welcome humanity into the galactic community. Dr. Petrov was fascinated by the variety of alien life. There were the crystalline zephyrins, who communicated through changes in light patterns, the massive thurians, who looked like walking mountains but had gentle, philosophical minds, the energy-based luminari, who existed as pure thought given form. Each species had something to offer humanity. The zephyrins shared medical technology that could cure diseases Earth had struggled with for centuries. The thurians offered engineering knowledge that could solve humanity's energy problems forever. The luminari promised to teach humans about the deeper mysteries of consciousness and reality. In return, the collective asked for very little. Earth would share information about human culture and history. Human explorers would help map unexplored regions of space, and Earth would contribute certain raw materials that were apparently rare in the galaxy. President Maria Santos, Earth's first global president, was amazed by the opportunities the aliens offered. "This is beyond our wildest dreams," she said. During a private meeting with Alina and her senior advisors, they're offering to help us solve every major problem facing humanity. General Patricia Brooks, the head of Earth's defense forces, was more cautious. She was a veteran military officer who had learned to be suspicious of deals that seemed too good to be true. "Madam President, we need to be careful about becoming too dependent on alien technology. What happens if they decide to leave?" General Brooks, "These beings have mastered interstellar travel and conquered disease, poverty, and war." President Santos replied, "We would be foolish not to learn everything we can from them." Growing concerns as months passed. More human colonies were established in collective space. Earth began sending regular shipments of rare minerals and metals to alien worlds. Human scientists worked alongside alien researchers in joint laboratories. Everything seemed perfect, but Lieutenant Marcus Chen was starting to notice problems. His job involved managing the trade relationships between Earth and the collective, and some of the numbers didn't make sense. Earth was sending far more resources than the original agreement specified, but when Marcus asked about it, he was told that the collective had special needs that required extra materials. Marcus decided to investigate on his own. Late one night, he accessed the shipping records and compared them with the signed treaties. What he found made his blood run cold. Earth was sending nearly 10 times the agreed amount of resources, and the shipments were increasing every month. When Marcus brought his concerns to General Brooks, she immediately ordered a full investigation. What they discovered was even worse than Marcus had suspected. The human colonies in collective space were not the thriving settlements they appeared to be. Communication with them was strictly controlled, and none of the colonists had been allowed to return to Earth for visits. "General, I think we need to send an inspection team to one of our colonies," Marcus suggested during a classified briefing. "Something's not right about this whole situation." General Brooks agreed, but when she requested permission to visit the colonies, the collective politely refused. Ambassador Kethva explained that the colonies were in a sensitive phase of development, and that outside visits might disrupt the integration process. The codebreakers, Discovery Duck. Sarah Kim had always been fascinated by codes and puzzles. As Earth's leading expert in alien communications, she had spent months studying collective transmissions, learning their language and understanding their technology. What she discovered changed everything. Working late in her laboratory, Sarah finally cracked the encryption on high-level collective communications. The first message she decoded made her hands shake as she read it. The collective wasn't discussing humans as partners or allies. They were talking about humanity as if they were livestock. The message described Earth as Resource World 7749, and humans as acceptable labor stock with moderate intelligence levels. There were detailed discussions about processing facilities and optimal harvesting quotas. Most horrifying of all, there were references to dozens of other species that had gone through the same process. Sarah immediately called General Brooks, even though it was 3 a.m. "General, you need to see this right away. We're not members of the collective. We're their next victims." General Brooks read the decoded messages with growing horror. The collective had done this before. Many times, they would approach a young civilization, offering friendship and advanced technology. Once the species became dependent on collective support, they would be moved to controlled worlds and put to work in massive industrial complexes. The colonies in collective space weren't settlements at all. They were labor camps where humans were being conditioned for a life of slavery. The extra resources Earth was sending weren't for trade. They were tribute payments to delay the final phase of humanity's enslavement. The trap revealed asterisk. General Brooks called an emergency meeting with President Santos and Earth's top leaders. The evidence was overwhelming. Humanity had walked directly into a trap that had been perfected over thousands of years. How many other species have they done this to? President Santos asked, her face pale as she reviewed the decoded messages. Based on these communications, at least 50 different civilizations, Sarah replied, and they're all gone now. Reduced to slave labor in collective industrial worlds. Alina, who had been present at first contact, felt sick. They'd been planning this from the moment we found that beacon. Everything they showed us, every promise they made, it was all designed to make us trust them. General Brooks stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the stars that now seemed full of threats instead of promise. The question is, what do we do about it? They have thousands of ships and technology centuries ahead of ours. How do we fight an enemy like that? We don't fight them, Alina said quietly. Not yet. They don't know that we know the truth. That gives us one advantage. President Santos nodded slowly. We play along while we prepare. But prepare for what? Even if we could build a fleet, we're outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Dr. Petr, who had been silent during most of the meeting, finally spoke up. Maybe we don't need to match their numbers. Maybe we need to be smarter than they expect. Sarah looked up from her computer. I've been analyzing their tactical doctrines from these intercepted communications. They've used the same strategies for centuries because they've never faced serious resistance. Every species they've conquered was caught completely off guard. General Brooks felt a spark of hope for the first time since learning the truth. So, we give them something they've never encountered before, a species that fights back. But we have to be incredibly careful, Alina warned. If they suspect we know the truth, they'll skip the slow infiltration phase and move directly to conquest. We need time to prepare. President Santos made the hardest decision of her presidency. We continue the charade. Send them their resources, attend their meetings, act grateful for their friendship. Meanwhile, we secretly prepare for war. As the meeting ended, General Brooks realized that humanity's greatest test was just beginning. They were facing an enemy that had conquered dozens of civilizations. But they had one thing the collective had never encountered before: a species that refused to go quietly into slavery. The trap had been revealed, but now Earth had to spring a trap of their own, and the stakes couldn't be higher. If they failed, humanity would join the long list of species that had disappeared into collective labor camps. If they succeeded, they might just save not only themselves, but all the other enslaved peoples of the galaxy. The war for humanity's freedom was about to begin, and the collective had no idea what was coming. The human storm operation Shadow Forge 6, months after discovering the collective's true intentions. Earth had become a world transformed. On the surface, everything appeared normal. Human ambassadors continued attending collective meetings, smiling and expressing gratitude for alien friendship. Resource shipments left Earth's orbital stations right on schedule. To outside observers, humanity was settling comfortably into their role as junior members of the galactic community. But beneath this peaceful facade, the largest military buildup in human history was taking place in secret. General Patricia Brooks had created Operation Shadowforge, a project so classified that only a few hundred people knew its full scope. Hidden shipyards throughout the solar system worked around the clock, building a war fleet using principles the collective had never encountered. Elena Vasquez now commanded the secret facility on Titan, Saturn's largest moon. The base was disguised as a research station studying Saturn's rings, but inside the moon's ice shell, thousands of engineers and scientists worked to create weapons specifically designed to fight an enemy that considered itself invincible. The beauty of fighting the collective, Elena explained to her senior staff, is that they've grown lazy through centuries of easy victories. They use the same tactics, the same formations, the same strategies they've used for 1,000 years. Dr. Sarah Kim had become the leader of Earth's intelligence network, using her knowledge of collective communications to coordinate the resistance. "I've been monitoring their fleet movements for months," she reported during a secure briefing. "They follow predictable patterns because they've never had to adapt to an enemy that fights back." The centerpiece of Earth's secret arsenal was a new type of warship that challenged every assumption about space combat. Instead of building massive dreadnoughts like the collective used, human engineers created smaller, faster vessels that could operate independently while coordinating perfectly. Through advanced AI systems, the underground network Alexei Petrov had made perhaps the most important discovery of all. While analyzing biological samples from various collective species, he found genetic markers that revealed a shocking truth. Many of the aliens working for the collective weren't willing partners at all. They were descendants of conquered species, genetically modified to be loyal servants. "The collective doesn't just enslave civilizations," Alexei explained to the Secret Council. "They reprogram them. After a few generations, the enslaved species forget they were ever free." This discovery led to Operation Underground, a covert mission to make contact with resistance movements that still existed within collective space. Lieutenant Marcus Chen, now promoted to colonel, led these dangerous diplomatic missions, using captured collective technology and Sarah's encryption techniques. Marcus was able to send secret messages to the outer regions of collective territory. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Dozens of enslaved species were still fighting their captors, waiting for someone strong enough to lead a real rebellion. The Cathara were a warrior species that had been enslaved for over 300 years. Their leader, Warlord Dex, sent a coded message that made Marcus smile for the first time in months. We have never stopped fighting. We have ships hidden throughout the outer rim. When you are ready to strike, we will join you. The crystalline. Vorthan had managed to hide their true intelligence from the collective for centuries, pretending to be simple mining drones while secretly building weapons and gathering information. The aquatic Narathi had developed underwater cities on ocean worlds, completely unknown to their collective overseers. Each enslaved species brought unique advantages to the growing alliance. The Cathara provided raw military strength and tactical knowledge. The Vorthan offered advanced materials, science, and manufacturing capabilities. The Northi contributed stealth technology and intelligence networks. "We're not just fighting for humanity anymore," Marcus reported to General Brooks. "We're fighting for the freedom of the entire galaxy." The innovation advantage asterisk. What the collective had failed to understand was that humans possessed something rare in the galaxy, an ability to innovate rapidly under pressure. While other species followed established patterns, humans excelled at finding creative solutions. Two impossible problems. Chief Engineer Rachel Torres led the technical development teams working in hidden bases throughout the solar system. Her greatest achievement was the development of quantum entanglement, communication systems that could coordinate fleet movements across vast distances instantly. The collective relies on subspace communications that we can intercept and jam, Rachel explained to Alina during one of their planning sessions. But quantum entanglement is instantaneous and impossible to detect or disrupt. Human scientists also developed new approaches to space combat that the collective had never encountered. Instead of fighting in rigid formations, human ships were designed to operate like schools of fish or flocks of birds, moving in coordinated swarms that could adapt to any situation. Dr. Petrov's biological research team made another crucial breakthrough. They discovered that several collective species had genetic vulnerabilities that could be exploited without harming humans or their allies. While the thought of biological warfare was disturbing, everyone understood that this was a fight for survival where every advantage mattered. The most ambitious project was the development of artificial intelligence, systems specifically designed for warfare. The collective had been amazed by human AI technology during their initial contact, but they didn't realize that humanity had been holding back their most advanced systems. "Our AI doesn't just follow orders," Rachel explained to the secret military council. "It learns, adapts, and makes independent decisions in battle. The collective has nothing that can match it." The deception campaign. While Earth's military prepared for war, the deception campaign continued flawlessly. President Santos attended collective ceremonies, giving speeches about humanity's gratitude for alien friendship. Human diplomats participated in cultural exchanges and trade negotiations, always appearing eager to please their alien benefactors. Ambassador Kethva began to grow suspicious about some of Earth's activities, but Sarah's intelligence network fed him carefully crafted misinformation that explained away any anomalies. When he questioned why Earth's mineral exports had slightly decreased, he was told that mining equipment was being upgraded with collective technology. When he asked about unusual energy readings from research stations, he was shown fake reports about experiments in clean energy production. The most dangerous moment came when Kethva requested to inspect one of Earth's major shipyards. General Brooks quickly arranged for him to visit a facility that appeared to be building civilian transport vessels, while the real military construction continued at hidden sites throughout the solar system. "Your people are adapting to collective technology even faster than we expected," Kethva told President Santos after his inspection. The Council will be very pleased with humanity's progress." President Santos smiled and expressed her gratitude, all while knowing that humanity's true progress was in preparing to destroy everything that Council represented. Operation Starfall begins after 18 months of secret preparation. Earth was finally ready to strike. The human fleet had grown to over 2,000 ships, supported by allied forces from enslaved species throughout the galaxy. More importantly, they had developed tactics and technology that the collective had never encountered. General Brooks stood in the command center of the flagship Defiance, surrounded by displays showing the positions of human and allied forces across multiple star systems. Alina commanded the stealth attack group, Marcus coordinated with resistance forces, and Sarah managed the intelligence and communication networks that would make victory possible. "All units, this is General Brooks," she announced over the secure quantum communication network. "Operation Starfall is now active. Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for every species the collective has enslaved and every civilization they plan to destroy." The first strikes hit simultaneously across 15 different star systems. Human stealth ships, invisible to collective sensors, appeared without warning at major military bases and industrial centers. The attacks were so perfectly coordinated that the collective didn't even have time to send distress signals before their communication networks were destroyed. Captain Lisa Park commanded the attack on the collective's primary fleet base at Nexus Prime. Her battle group consisted of 50 ships designed to look like civilian transports until they opened fire with weapons the collective didn't know existed. "All ships, drop stealth and engage," Lisa commanded as her fleet materialized around the unsuspecting alien base. "Show them what happens when you threaten humanity." The battle was over in minutes. Collective ships designed to fight predictable enemies found themselves helpless against human vessels that moved like living things, coordinating their attacks through AI systems that could adapt faster than any alien commander could respond. The galaxy rises. The success of the initial strikes sent shockwaves throughout collective space. For the first time in centuries, their seemingly invincible fleet had been defeated. But the real surprise came when enslaved species throughout the galaxy rose up in rebellion. Warlord Dex led the Cathara in attacks on collective supply lines, using their hidden fleets to cut off alien forces from reinforcement. The emerged from their mining worlds with ships and weapons they had been secretly building for generations. The Narathi struck from the depths of ocean worlds, their attacks so swift and deadly that collective forces never saw them coming. Colonel Marcus Chen coordinated the liberation of slave worlds, working with resistance leaders to free millions of beings who had spent their entire lives in captivity. Each rescued population joined the growing alliance, bringing new knowledge and capabilities to the fight. The most emotional moment came when human forces reached their own lost colonies. The people who had been sent to build new worlds in collective space were found in processing centers, being prepared for lives of slavery. Alina personally led the rescue mission, and when she saw the conditions her fellow humans had been forced to endure, she understood why this war had been necessary. "No one deserves to live like this," Alina said as she helped evacuate the prisoners. "And no one ever will again if we have anything to say about it." The collectives surrendered. The war that the collective expected to last for years was over. In 6 months, their rigid military doctrine, perfected through centuries of fighting defenseless victims, proved helpless against an enemy that refused to follow established patterns. Human tactics, supported by allied forces and advanced AI systems, consistently outmaneuvered and outfought supposedly superior alien fleets. The final battle took place at the collective's capital world, where the Council of Directors had ruled the galaxy for over 1,000 years. General Brooks led the combined human and allied fleets in a direct assault on the planet's defenses. But instead of the massive space battle the collective expected, the humans did something unprecedented. They broadcasted a message to every being on the planet, both collective leaders and their enslaved populations. "People of the galaxy," General Brooks announced, her voice carrying to millions of listeners. "The age of slavery is over. The collective has ruled through fear and deception for too long. Today, we offer you a choice. Join us in building a free galaxy, or face the consequences of continued oppression." The response was immediate. Enslaved populations throughout the capital system rose up against their oppressors. Collective military forces found themselves fighting on dozens of worlds simultaneously, while human ships prevented any escape from the system. Ambassador HFY, the being who had first welcomed humanity to the galactic community, requested a meeting with General Brooks aboard the Defiance. When he materialized in the ship's conference room, his elegant features were marked with defeat and confusion. "How?" he asked simply. "How did a primitive species like humanity accomplish what no one has done in 1,000 years?" General Brooks looked at the alien leader with steady eyes. "You made a fundamental mistake, HFY. You assumed that because we were younger than you, we were weaker. You confused technological advancement with wisdom, and military power with true strength." Alina stepped forward. "You never understood what makes humans special. We don't just adapt to challenges. We transform them into opportunities. We don't just survive threats. We use them to become stronger." Dr. Petrov, who had studied the collective's biology for years, added his own observation. "You conquered civilizations by making them dependent on your technology and isolated from each other. But you made humans aware of the galaxy's diversity and connected us with other species who shared our desire for freedom." Sarah looked up from her communication console. "The surrender documents are ready for transmission, General." The collective's formal surrender came 3 days later. The terms were simple but revolutionary. All enslaved species would be freed immediately. The Council of Directors would be dissolved, and a new galactic government would be established based on cooperation rather than domination. A new dawn. 1 year after Operation Starfall began, Alina stood on the observation deck of the newly commissioned Starship Unity, looking out at a sight that would have been impossible to imagine just a few years earlier. The ship's crew included humans, Kithara warriors, Vorthan engineers, Nerethi navigators, and representatives from dozens of other species working together as equals. Captain Vasquez were receiving the final report from the Liberation Fleet, reported Commander Chen, who now served as Elena's first officer aboard Unity. "The last of the slave worlds have been freed. Every species the collective held captive is now returning to their home systems." Alina smiled as she watched the diverse fleet spread out across space, each ship heading to a different part of the galaxy to help rebuild civilizations that had been suppressed for centuries. Status report from the Constitutional Convention. The new Galactic Alliance Charter is nearly complete. Sarah replied from her position as the ship's communication officer. Representatives from over 200 species are working together to create a government based on freedom and cooperation rather than conquest and control. General Brooks, who had been appointed as the first Director General of the Galactic Alliance, appeared on the communication screen from her headquarters on New Terra, the Alliance's capital world. Alina, I have new orders for Unity. There are reports of unknown signals from the Andromeda galaxy. It seems we may have neighbors beyond our own galaxy. Alina felt the familiar thrill of discovery that had driven her to become an explorer in the first place. Understood, General. We'll investigate and make contact, if appropriate. As Unity turned toward the edge of the galaxy, Alina reflected on how much had changed since that day she first discovered the alien beacon near Jupiter. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged stronger than ever. They had freed an entire galaxy from slavery and helped build something better in its place. But perhaps most importantly, they had proven that the future belonged not to the strongest or most advanced species, but to those with the courage to stand up for what was right and the wisdom to work together toward common goals. The stars ahead held new mysteries and challenges, but Alina was no longer worried about what they might find. Humanity had learned that with determination, creativity, and the support of good friends, there was no challenge too great to overcome. The age of human exploration had truly begun. **